So for those of you watching our recorded version right now, we're just getting ready to share everything out before we get started with our discussion.
And we will be following on the hashtag Science Hour. This Science Hours, we're trying to keep it simple and straightforward. And we're here to take your questions, take your comments, and talk to you a little bit about the future. So for those of you just joining us, I'm Dr. Pamela Gay. I'm on the faculty at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and I run the Astrosphere New Media nonprofit. And with me today is Scott Lewis. You want to introduce yourself, Scott?
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Lewis. I'm the Hangout producer for CosmoQuest, also on their education public outreach team, and a current student here in California.
And Scott and I have been brainstorming back and forth about how to try and move these science hours forward. And as we approach the end of this year, looking around at all the different programs that CosmoQuest has going on, what we're realizing is our audience, those of you out there, are much more interested in the video, much more interested in the interactions than you are in some of our podcast content. And so what we're looking at is taking the 365 Days of Astronomy podcasts that we currently have going out and folding it in with the Science Hour to produce Science Hour discussions like the ones that we do week to week, except bring Nancy Atkinson in to talk in front of an audience to people from the NASA Lunar Science Institute, to bring people in to talk to you about, well, cheap astronomy. He's one of our favorite contributors over at 365. And by bringing this new dynamic of people in, we can hopefully provide you more of this video content that you love so much, while at the same time taking this great project that we've been working on since 2009 that has really seen its day and keeping its legacy while getting rid of the thing that people are just kind of tired of finding the energy to produce. And as part of this, Scott's going to be doing a lot of work around here, helping us pull things together. And I know you have some great visions for how we're going to work to better share the science that we're doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We, as many of you know, we do have a forum on CosmoQuest where we get to discuss the science with the actual science team, go over ideas, interesting images that we've been able to find. Yet there seems to be a lot of questions, and we're trying to find a better way to engage with you, to actually have a conversation going on rather than random posts here and there and hoping that someone checked their email that day and going along. So if we are able to collect all these questions up and have an actual discussion while the rest of us are doing the citizen science along with you and engaging on some of the more difficult features that we need to mark, some of the more complicated questions that we might have, and help discuss the science, help discuss the hardware that's actually discovering the science for us, and what our plans for the future are. So we want to really maintain that engagement and that conversation with all of you as we're continuing on doing this together, trying to find out what more can we learn about our close neighborhood in the solar system and then beyond.
And this was largely inspired by the work that Fraser Kame and Emily Lakdawalla have been doing every other week with the Science Hour, where they've been coming on and presenting really good roundups of all the explorations and adventures being carried out by the Mars Science Laboratory out on Mars. And watching what they're doing made Scott think, well, why don't we have our science teams coming on? And as I was sitting there Sunday night, we have our first complete science paper for Moon Mappers. It got submitted to the journal yesterday. We'll share it with you as soon as we have permission from the publisher to do so. And I was thinking, there's this great opportunity to not just round up the science being done on Mars, but to round up the science being done here in CosmoQuest and get the scientists that are utilizing all of your efforts to come in and talk to you. And, well, Scott's going to be the man to do a lot of the organizing on this.
Yes, it's something that we all have our hand in. All of us, from people across the world, clicking away on images instead of playing Angry Birds, we're discovering craters and boulder fields and things like that. So this is something we all have been able to accomplish and we just have very specific people that are writing these journals to submit this. But this has everyone involved. It has all of your heart, all your time being put into it, and so we should have a discussion. You should be able to see the fruits of your labor, and hopefully not getting carpal tunnel in the process.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about the Science Hour is there is no carpal tunnel harmed in the process of doing video. I get to talk to you instead of type to you. As much as I adore typing to you, my wrists and tendons tend to dislike it. And so through the Science Hour, we get to have this much more dynamic, no script required conversation that, well, we hope that all of you enjoy being a part of. Now, we are here to take your questions. You can either leave us a comment over on YouTube or on Google+. We are following all of these different comments. And beyond that, you can also tweet at us at #ScienceHour, #ScienceHour. Choose whichever way of pronouncing it you would like. And we'd love to hear from you. Now, what are some of the exciting discussions that you're already seeing over on the forums? And here I have to say that having realized I travel far too much, Scott is my designated, it's sort of like having a designated hitter in baseball. He's my designated forum moderator who's going in and helping to keep all the wheels turning in the CosmoQuest forums, which are home of the Bout forums from Bout Astronomy and Universe Today.
I like to call it the ambassador to the Dark Overlord, and that allows me to come in with a little bit of humor while also being able to communicate directly with our amazing admin and forum and moderator team that we have there to help cultivate these fantastic conversations that are already starting with people from across the world, and to help facilitate the growth of that. Some of the great forum threads that I've been seeing, a lot have to do with specific crater markings that they look odd. And one amazing thing about us as being humans doing this, we get to see all sorts of familiar traits, or we can see faces and things, or something looks like a square. How did that shape? It really gets our curiosity going, as opposed to a robot and a camera going through and just saying, well, that's not a crater. That's not, that albedo feature, not really what we're looking for. We get to see things that are interesting to us. We get to see things that seem familiar. We see things all over the place. So I get to see a lot of the images being brought up. We get to discuss it. I know Stuart from the Moonmapper team comes in and discusses a lot of them, a lot of the images with the different users, which is fantastic. So it allows the general community, which we're all a part of, to be able to speak directly with the science team on different parts of the LRO images coming through.
And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of all the different things that exist within CosmoQuest. It's somewhat daunting when I have to go in and edit the pages to dig through all the different menus, and it's kind of not at the horrific degree of Wikipedia or YouTube where it's sort of like going down the rabbit hole, but it is at the point where if you don't know that there's galleries for moon mappers, you may not know that you can go and click, and once you're in the galleries for moon mappers, well, maybe you don't know that you can send that image that you're looking at into the forums to go discuss. But all these capabilities are there, and this is where another one of the things that we want to do is start actively getting together and let's classify objects. We do virtual star parties all the time where we get people together to look at the live sky through a bunch of different telescopes. Well, one of the things that we're looking at doing in the future is bringing in scientists to talk to us about, well, what is the science we're doing in moon mappers? But while we're having that discussion, also go through and look at all the capabilities that the Moon Mapper site has and all the different ways that you have to participate within the site.
Well, absolutely, and being able to discuss very specific types of markings. Going through the Moon Mappers page, just looking at one image, you have so many different options to classify an image with. And a lot of people don't quite understand what exactly those mean. We do have a couple FAQs. I'm currently writing a wiki page for just that one project, which is more daunting than I thought it would be. But it allows us to think outside the box and how we can describe it in an easier way that we wouldn't necessarily be obvious to a layperson that's not necessarily into planetary astronomy. So you can become familiar with these awesome ideas and thinking back, well, this had to have happened billions of years ago to look this way. Now you're thinking in a completely different sense while still being able to understand, oh, well, now I can track this feature that I've seen many times before, but I didn't know it was that feature, so I couldn't mark it as such. So we see a lot of opportunities to even have, once a month, we'll go over one specific type of feature and just go in depth and bring up examples and what exactly it means and what could have happened or what could have caused this thing to happen. And since we have right now 3 active missions plus many more along the line, it allows the opportunity to continue our conversation and build on them so we all gain a better understanding of the science that's being done while having fun actually doing it.
And one of the things that I really love about working with CosmoQuest is we're slowly bringing in more and more objects. Currently, you can go in, you can look at images of the asteroid Vesta that come to us from the Dawn mission. You can look at areas of the lunar surface with images coming to us from Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. We are going to be bringing in just hopefully the next few weeks, images of the surface of Mercury. And looking at all these different objects, the physics that formed each of these different surfaces is the exact same physics, the exact same geophysics, the exact same chemistry is involved. But because the compositions are different, well, it's the same chemistry, but the ingredient mix is different. So this starts to become the difference between making crepes and making pancakes. The way the surfaces change over time is affected by how much atmosphere there is. So here you have massive differences between Mars and Mercury. You have differences based on, well, how much gravity is involved. So here you look at the small round moon and you see it has these deep chasms that you don't see, well, here on the planet Earth for sure. And so as we go through these different worlds, we're seeing the same types of things, but affected by different environments, affected by different gravities. And we can start to see, well, this is what happens when you build a planet this way. And this is what happens when you build a planet this other way.
Oh, absolutely. It's one thing that I've really got me into the physics of astronomy. And a lot of us get pulled in, and I was one of them, by the first time we optically look through a telescope. And you see Saturn for the first time, or Jupiter, or it's the moons of Jupiter. And so you get this context of they're not just dots in the sky, but there's structure to them. But actually understanding that they're all having the same basic forces going on. We all have the same basic chemistry here in the solar system. It's just about how it was added and when it was added and how things come about, realizing that we all have the same basic makeup, just it took, it had a different path on its way there. You see a large connection between who we are and what's all out there. We all have the same chemical makeup dealing with our solar system, but something else happened along the way. Something crazy happened, and we have a moon now. You just have a big whack, and stuff happens, and we get to see this orbit that's in our sky that's not, it wasn't there to begin with billions of years ago, and something awesome happened, and there it is. And now we get to study this and see, what within ourselves we're able to explore when we just look up and be able to study it.
And one of the really awesome things is we're working with science that isn't done. The stories are still being written. Working with the Vesta team has been one of my most satisfying experiences. Brittany Schmidt is this amazingly dynamic young scientist. She works a lot on Europa. She's one of the people who figured out that you have to take into account hydraulic forces when you start dealing with ices and compressed liquids. But she's also been out there spearheading, taking these images that haven't all been released out in other means and putting them out there to get your help mapping the surface of Vesta. Well, as we've been part of this mission, as we've been watching the orbiter of the Dawn spacecraft, which has now departed, poor Vesta, leaving it all alone on its way out to Ceres. Well, when Dawn got to Vesta, for the first time we realized that this asteroid had had a fair amount of abuse in its past. This poor giant rock pretty much got hit in what is now its rotational rear end. At some point in its past, a giant rock came along that was nonetheless smaller than Vesta and hit it in such a way that where it impacted has now become the rotational pole, put huge stresses on the system, and trying to understand all these different things that we're seeing has been a challenge, and you get to be part of this journey to try and understand. And well, as we're racing forward, as science is racing forward, we're all realizing that trying to keep everything moving forward together has been a challenge. And this is where Scott's going to be working with us to make sure that, well, Brittany's on here more often helping us understand what's being learned about Vesta, that we're bringing in other mission team scientists. And so we're going to be working to bring you updates, not just about Vesta, but about all the different missions that we're working with.
Absolutely. I think the measure of communication, how often do we get to be involved in actual scientific research unless we work in these institutions, let alone being able to have an open discussion about what else is being discovered, that you the user, are actually able out there discovering what's something we didn't know before. I saw the other day, and I'll have to dig up the link, and it was a video comparing the images taken from Hubble of Vesta, and then as the Dawn mission approached. And you see this fuzzy blob, you can see there's a rotation going on, but it's just nebulous. And as Dawn's approaching, you just get the better resolution as it's coming closer and closer. And you're able to identify and see features that we haven't been able to see before. So though we have these amazing instruments that have been able to help understand our universe, such as the Hubble Space Telescope, which is a fantastic piece of hardware, we're able to continue on and better understand what's just in our neighborhood. This is something so very near to us that on the scale of even our galaxy is nothing. And we don't necessarily know anything about it yet. So we're getting a better understanding of just what's outside our front door, let alone what's going to be in our front yard or even across the street as we're going further out into the universe. So I'm really excited to be able to work with all the science team, everyone in our education public outreach team, and all of you, our citizen scientists, to be able to work together, get a better understanding of what we're doing and how we can actually discover more things about our neighborhood than we had yesterday.
So I'm looking in at the comments. For those of you just joining us, this is the CosmoQuest Science Hour. I am Dr. Pamela Gay, and with me this week is Scott Lewis, who on Twitter is at Bald Astronomer, not to be confused with Bad Astronomer, one letter and a whole lot of personality difference. And Scott and I are talking about how in the future we're going to be working to transform CosmoQuest's Science Hour into something that works to incorporate some of the best features of the 365 Days of Astronomy podcast, while at the same time working to also bring you more and more updates on all the science projects that are going on. Now, I am following comments both on our YouTube and our Google Hangout pages, and also on Twitter via the hashtag #ScienceHour. So if you would like to contact with us, we'd love to hear from you. I see a comment coming in from John Johnson saying, "Why no Halloween costumes?" Well, for me, it's a simple matter of, well, I love Halloween, but I have to admit I had a tire blowout this afternoon, so my afternoon got rather confused by having to replace the tire. Well, I didn't replace, having to swap out the tire on my car, and I was rescued by some poor other Jeep owner, not poor, some awesome other Jeep owner, because the stupid little lock that you use to get the lug nuts off on a Jeep, mine has gone into a hiding position, and some other Jeep owner saw me on the side of the road and came over and helped me unlock my spare tire that was locked there.
So they are right. It's a Jeep thing, and I wouldn't understand. So
it is a Jeep thing. I love my Jeep, but my Jeep, it. Go look at the pictures on Twitter. So my costume was lost in the chaos, and it would also be kind of weird for all the people watching this later, not sure why Scott and I are in costumes. I don't think my mic is picking it up. There's actually a Halloween parade passing out in front of my house right now. So tonight's Science Hour is likely to be a little bit short due to trick-or-treaters and things like that.
Yes. Well, and I guess technically I'm going as CosmoQuest for Halloween, but I go as CosmoQuest every day because I am CosmoQuest.
And if any of the rest of you would like to go as CosmoQuest, you can pick up CosmoQuest apparel and other neat, nerdy things at Astro Gear, ASTRO gear.com or .org. And the awesome thing is every t-shirt you buy is 1 hour of salary for one of the students or other staffers working within CosmoQuest. So please help us feed students like Scott, who is a student and one of our team, and we want to feed him as much as possible. So buy t-shirts, we will feed Scott. So
I'm not starving, but it is appreciated, and it does not only go to a good cause like me, Captain Modest, but we have a fantastic team that I've had the fortune to work with. Since I've been working with CosmoQuest for about 6 months now,
yeah.
in an unofficial role, and now taking on as an official role, I've had the fantastic opportunity to work with not only you, Pamela, but with Fraser and Nicole and Emily, and I'm meeting Stu at TAM, and even and Phil, and just meeting all these amazing people and working side by side, being able to do the wonderful things that typically people don't even think about, that, hey, I can do actual scientific research. I've been talking with my students this semester in our planetary astronomy class that I do provide instruction for, and it blew them away that there is something where they can actually contribute to scientific research. They've seen different posters up on campus about doing summer research or going to poster presentations at different schools, but never really considered that they could be part of something larger than themselves while in their undergrad. And I let them know, and you get extra credit too. So any of my students watching out there, which I'll make sure it goes onto your Blackboard account, for the you can do extra credit by participating in scientific research, by mapping Vesta and the moon. Our ICE investigators right now has been doing great. We're waiting for some more data to come in. But we have these amazing things in understanding our closest neighbor, the moon, and we also have Vesta out there. But it's something we're able to have our hands in. We're able to see ourselves in finding out what's going on. And it's so exciting to me to know that we can be involved with this. And we can contribute in a way more than getting a high score on a web game or something like that. And you can listen to our previous hangouts as well while you're doing your citizen science. To me, it's just amazing that you don't have to get your 4-year first or maybe get involved in an REU program to be able to do scientific research. You can go home and with your fuzzy bunny slippers and go map some craters and features on our planetary objects out there. It's just wonderful.
And looking at the comments coming in, I feel like this episode should be subtitled the "I Love You Man" episode, but because Ray Sanders, who's Dear Astronomer on Twitter and is a really good blogger, he writes, "That's why Jeeps rule," referring to me getting rescued by another Jeep driver. It's a community like us astronomers, and this is one of the things that I really love about working with CosmoQuest and working in social media, is there aren't that many places where everyone just kind of pitches in to help one another. New media and social media is one of those communities where I think Fraser Cain phrased it best a couple of years ago when he said he'd be willing to answer anyone's questions, he'd be willing to help anyone out because, well, if knowing his secrets makes them so good that they surpass him, well, he's clearly not competitive anymore, and he always has been. But by making them competitive, it grows the entire community. It makes all of us want to strive harder and do more. And within CosmoQuest and the citizen science community, we are people who try harder and work to do more every day with our citizen science, even if it's just 10 minutes while watching television and also mapping craters on the moon. And not all of astronomy is like this, but the people that we're meeting, the people that we're collaborating with through CosmoQuest, we're working with Astronomers Without Borders, the Galileo Teacher Training Program, the Planetary Society, the folks out at Youngstown State University who are doing science on the half sphere. All of these people have the single desire of working to more effectively spread astronomy, spread understanding of our universe as far as possible, as free as possible, and as freely as possible. And so it's not just a Jeep thing, it's a CosmoQuest thing.
It is.
Maybe we need to make that shirt.
We should. We definitely should. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been able to meet up with some amazing people, be hosted at different places. I never thought I'd have the ability to, like Jerry Hilburn down at the San Diego Valley Astronomy Association, or amateur astronomers down there, for the Venus hangout when we had the Venus transit. They hosted me there. They put me up. They fed me. We got to do some great observing the night before and look through some amazing telescopes. And then we're very accommodating for us to be able to provide this to you. So I don't want everyone to think that we're just rich and we just have all these things at our disposal. There is a lot that is donated to us. There's a lot of people that volunteer their time and just offer simple things like, hey, I've got a cot over here if you'd like to lay on it. And so instead of having to get a hotel room, which it definitely helps. And there's been just a fantastic response from the entire community allowing us to use their time and their telescope. I know Corey Schmidt, thank you to
Corey's great.
For his wife for allowing him to come play with us, because it's great. It does take a lot of time. It is an expensive hobby, and it is a time, it's a time sucker.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time out of your day, but these men and women that we get to work with our virtual star parties and in our science hour, we get to they volunteer their time. We're not necessarily getting paid for this. We want to share this information with you. We want to get you as excited as we are about understanding our universe. And it's just wonderful on just all the amazing people that we have the opportunity of working with.
And one of the things that John Johnson is reminding me of within the comments that are coming in is we also get the wonderful opportunity to meet so many of you face to face when we travel out across the United States. Scott and I are going to be in Long Beach this January, where maybe we'll get to see John again. And as we travel, we get to meet more and more people. We get to share ideas. We get to brainstorm ways to build into the future. And so it's all a community effort, and some of us are lucky that we do get paid somewhat to do what we do. I think 60% of my pay comes to do CosmoQuest from a whole variety of different things that we do, and the rest of my pay is stringed together off of a couple of other grants and then off of speaking gigs that I get. So if you ever ask me to come speak and I'm sad at you about could you please pay me, it's because I don't actually get paid full time, because I want to spread our money as far as possible. And so we have this great combination of people who are giving as much as they can, who are finding alternate ways to fund things. We have great donors. iTelescope has made 365 Days of Astronomy largely possible for the second half of this year. We cannot thank the folks at iTelescope nearly enough. Swinburne Astronomy Online has been a great sponsor over the years. We've gotten Uncle Bob Martin has done a great job helping to sponsor Astronomy Cast. All these different people are coming together, donating their time, donating their money, and together we're increasing our understanding of the universe both through education and through new scientific discoveries. So Howard McCasley, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Howard. It wouldn't be a hangout if I didn't mispronounce at least one thing. He's asking in the comments, so Pamela and Scott, how does one get involved with CosmoQuest outreach? Well, honestly, you just keep an eye out on our meetup schedule. We'll periodically put out calls for can you come help? And if you're not going to be at one of our pre-planned activities, but locally you have an activity, we can send you a box of materials. We can send you instructions for different things to do. So for instance, not this weekend, but next weekend, I'm going to be at the Arizona Astronomy Expo in Tucson, Arizona. I'm hoping I'm going to run into Ray Sanders there and a lot more of you there. And we're going to have a booth right next to Astronomers Without Borders, who are our good friends. And we're going to be hopefully finding volunteers in the next 2 weeks to come out and help us with this booth. So I'll be putting out a call on Twitter later this evening and continuing to pester people to please volunteer for us. And so that's what it takes, is responding to one of our calls for volunteers, or saying, hey, there's going to be this local star party, there's going to be this local public event, there's going to be a local science fiction convention, and I'd like to set up a table to do science at the science fiction convention. Drop us that email and we'll help you get engaged, and we'll work to provide you all the resources we can, and if we don't have something already, we'll try and put it together for you.
Oh, absolutely. And with our volunteers, when we were at TAM this July, we had Dusty there. Dusty's a great guy. Especially, I like his haircut. Dusty, approve of the shaved head. But it was great because you made a friend in the process, and I saw him again just by happenstance at the Mars party that was going on outside the Pasadena Convention Center the day before the Curiosity landing. So I was there working, getting ready for our broadcast the next day, and I just happened to run into him. We didn't coordinate it. You make friends in this community. And there's some just fantastic people that you maintain contact with. And he's in San Diego. He's about 2 hours away from me, yet you bump into each other at these wonderful nerd events. Because the Mars party was a huge nerd event. It was awesome. Just people in spacesuits. It was great. But we get to meet some fantastic people that are not only just really interested in doing citizen science and doing outreach, but you make friends along the way, and you might share a drink later on, or have dinner, and just get to know them as a person, as well as being able to work side by side in spreading the awesome science that we're able to continue to do through donors, through volunteers, and just keep paying it forward. We're able to keep sharing it and pushing it out there to get even more people involved. It's absolutely wonderful.
And I think this is one of the great things about the groups of people that we've brought together. With 365 Days of Astronomy, which started back in the 2009 International Year of Astronomy, I've gotten to hear so many voices that they now feel like people I know. I've never met the person behind Chief Astronomer, but he's someone that I know I can trust to always get his audio in on time. I've met Richard Drum through Dragon Con, but I know him and trust him from the internet exchanges that we have. And what's amazing is how this does lead to interesting real friendships. Stuart Foreman, who helps us with our virtual star parties, is now someone who sends me book recommendations. And so we get to have these conversations through email that I sometimes think that my online life is slowly becoming richer than my real life in small-town middle America. But the thing is that this online life is carrying me all across the United States to meet you people out there on the internet and to meet you in real life so that we can do these things together. So, Scott, you and I have had the opportunity to get to meet in real life. We are now working to build more and more great things together. Looking forward, if you could bring anyone that you've had the chance to interact with to one of our real-world events, who do you think who are the people you're most looking forward to getting to meet in real life?
Oh man, what's crazy is I've met so many of the people involved in our virtual star parties in real life. So I don't want to put anybody out. You know, I've met Stuart Foreman when he flew into LA, so I picked him up at LAX. Gary as well. Gary Ganella is
Gary's fabulous.
Love Gary. Thad Szabo as well. Dr. Thad Szabo, that's with our virtual star parties. All of them, you know, and they're such amazing people. And you and I have talked about this. I'm always looking for ways. Hey, let's get everyone to meet in meet space. We get to talk with each other, but every once in a while, it's really cool to unplug and be around this amazing group of people. It blows me away on something that 8 months ago I was just a commenter. I was just a viewer. I was just watching this and saying, hey, this is really interesting. Let's start a conversation. And now I'm able to work with people from across the United States, from across the world. I mean, we have Ahmed Kale. We have our guys in Australia, New Zealand, and Denmark, and Pakistan. These amazingly brilliant people that, again, volunteer their time. They share their hobby with us, and they share their view of the cosmos with us. And I get a look through a telescope in Turkey. I've never physically been to Turkey yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I'm looking through a telescope in Turkey, which is wonderful.
And I think moving forward, what we want to say to everyone out there watching us right now is, what do you want this community to do? This is a community, and Scott and I get to gleefully run as fast as we can to try and build as much as we can for you. But we want to know where you want to go as we're running as fast as we can. So earlier today, Scott set up in the CosmoQuest forums, which are home of the About Astronomy Universe Today forums, he set up a new area where you can propose future speakers that you want to hear from. I know in the near future we're going to have Alan Stern on from Uwingu. I'm going to be working to get Stuart Robbins on to talk about our Moon Mappers paper as soon as that paper is accepted, which of course could be anywhere from 3 days to 3 years from now, because, well, not 3 years, 3 months from now. And so we'll be working to do that. But what else do you want to hear? What else do you want to know? We're also going to be working to get more and more classes out there. We're working with Ray Sanders right now to put together a class on galaxies that will come out to accompany our Science on the Half Sphere show, Cosmic Castaways. All these different things that we're working on. We have our virtual star parties, and of course, don't forget, I'm going to plug it one more time, astrogear.org, where you can get shirts like the one that Stuart's wearing right now. Scott's wearing right now. Why do I rename you once a week?
It's all right. I come to terms with that. So.
At least I consistently rename you once a week. It's always the same wrong name.
It always starts with an S. So.
And it's always after I've been talking about Stuart Foreman. So
Stuart does that. Stuart does get into your brain for a little.
So since it is Halloween and I can hear the fire trucks in front of my house that are in the parade starting to gear up to chase the marching band down the street, it's not really a high-speed chase, but nonetheless it goes marching band, then fire truck, then marching band, then fire truck. I can hear them starting to gear up, and I don't know how much longer it's going to be before they start invading the microphone. So are there any more questions out there in our virtual audience on this Halloween show on what we're planning for the future? Just to give a quick rundown of what's coming in the not-so-distant future, tomorrow is going to be the CosmoQuest Space Hangout hosted by Fraser Kane, where he and a host of other people are going to be going over this week's latest discoveries and adventures in space science, research, and exploration. Then on Sunday evening, we're going to have our virtual star party starting as soon as it's dark on the west coast of the United States. If you have a telescope and you'd like to get involved in helping to share your own views on the sky, go ahead and contact @BaldAstronomer Scott Lewis on Google+, and he will help hook you up to become part of our team. And then Monday, film schedule willing, which is the strangest thing to come out of my mouth, we will be recording Astronomy Cast on the offset that I end on the off chance that I am on set at that time. Then we will probably reschedule for Wednesday. So that's what's coming up in the short-term future, and we have all sorts of ways that you can get involved in science as well that I'll let Scott go over.
Absolutely. And also, if you're not a part of the Planetary Society, you might not have heard of this, 2 weeks from Friday, I believe so, or a week from Friday, is Carl Sagan's birthday.
Yeah.
And they're partnered up with KPCC, our local station out here in Pasadena, to have an hour and a half just discussion about Professor Sagan's work. He'll be 78, or he would have been 78.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they'll be going out to eat and having a Sagan slam, where you get to read your favorite quotes of Sagan and tell about how he's impacted our lives. So that's coming up there. It is. You can go to planetary.org to take a look at that content on there and help either become a part of the Planetary Society, which is really inexpensive to be a member of, and you get in on some of the things going on that we don't typically care about. And there's some wonderful things going on. Excuse me. Plus, I went ahead and put the comments, in the comments on Google Plus for where you can submit your ideas on our CosmoQuest forum. It is under the subforum Beloved Contents, and you're able to go into our Google Hangouts, and there's a sticky up on there, and so anytime it's there, I'll be able to see it. I have subscribed to it, so I'll get an email immediately when someone makes a comment on there as well. For any sort of requests for speakers, for a topic, or anything like that, so we can be able to hold that discussion with you. And that's one thing that I'm trying to switch gears into, is making sure we can keep an engaging conversation with everybody going on, because you really are CosmoQuest. You are allowing us to do these amazing things, and if it wasn't for you, they wouldn't happen.
And because I had to pay very painful server bills earlier this week, I am going to say, if you'd like to help in some way other than classifying the surface of a planet or buying a t-shirt, we do take direct donations. The divisions in organizations that handle things are all of these hangouts you see. All of the audio, video, media content is all hosted by Astrosphere New Media, which is astrosphere.org. It's the 501c3 that a bunch of us put together at the end of the International Year of Astronomy. All of the citizen science that you see is hosted through our Astronomy Cast group at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So if you would like to help pay the server bills that allow all of this video stuff to be possible and make CosmoQuest possible, please donate to astrosphere.org. There's a big donate link if you go to that page. And please help me pay our server bills, because really, our server bills, they frightened me earlier this week. This is me looking very sad at the camera, because really, it was a frightening server bill. So we don't ask for money very often. We'd much rather have you engaged in helping to map the surfaces of a planet. If you don't have the time or energy to map the moon, can you donate $1? So that's all my begging. It's been a great evening. I think we need to do a Love You Man sessions every once in a while, and doing it on this All Hallows Eve. It's been the right time, because really, what scientists could we have tricked into being here when they could be out there eating all of the treats before the kids come knocking on their door?
It has been a treat.
It really has. It's always great to get to work with you, Scott.
Yes.
So we'd like to thank all of you for being with us, and I hope that you tune in for tomorrow's space hangout hosted by my colleague Fraser Kane from Universe Today and my co-host over at Astronomy Cast. And if I don't see you then, I will see you Sunday night for a virtual star party, airplane plans willing. So thank you, Scott, and see you all online.
Bye, everyone.
And this is where I realize I can't find the end broadcast button. There it is.